Welcome. Today is going to be really cool because we have Chiara here who just is finished a movie that just came out. And it was her first time on the client side working in VFX, and she's here to tell us all the behind the scenes details. Some of it will be on the recording and some of it will be after the recording. So stick around at the end to see the can't be recorded stuff. But we'll do the Q&A and stuff before that. So Chiara graduated from Syracuse a few years ago, and she took VFX and my post-production class and learned a lot and took that into the industry and has done like a lot of things, both client side and artist side. And she's here to tell you all about it.
Thanks for the intro, Shayna. All right, guys. Well, gonna share my screen. I'll get into some more about me later, but without further ado, I'm gonna show you the cool stuff. So yeah, we are going to start out with the name of it, obviously, Caught Stealing. Show of hands, has anyone seen it? It came out August 29th, so oh, cool. All right, some of you guys have. Nice. And if you haven't, maybe I'll convince you at the end. I think it just came out on digital. They did like a cool throwback to the 90s with that. So yeah, I'm going to show you the trailer. It'll probably do a better job at explaining than me. Let me first just make sure that it's showing with my audio. I might have to, hold on one second. Let me redo this so I can share it with the audio. Just so, sorry guys, I'm a little rusty with the Zoom. I'm not gonna lie to you. Here, let me do this. Try it again. Okay, nice. All right, take two on that, but here we go. I'll let you watch.
What the hell happened?
Some last call. Drink them if you got them.
Let's go back to your place and you can take advantage of my poor judgment.
I depend on your poor judgment.
I want to know if I can take this seriously.
What do you need to take us seriously?
Come on, kids, get a room.
Sorry, Miss Kitty.
Oi! What the fuck you doing, geezer? Is that the best you can do? I've got to fly back to London. I need you to take care of my cat.
I like cats.
I like dogs.
Hey, is Russ home?
Who are you?
What's the baby, man?
Who did this to you?
La pistola. Either I get what I want, or my pistol stuck from me.
These guys you messed up with, they're scary monsters.
I don't know anything.
Sweep me in the fucking head, you swat!
What the fuck did you get me into?
Darling, you got to let me know.
Welcome to Narnia.
Should I stay or should I
How
go?
much is there?
Over 4 million.
Shit.
Everyone gets a cut. The Russians, the Puerto Ricans, the Hebrews.
What the fuck are you doing? Oh.
So what happens to me?
You're fucked.
You run away from what you're afraid of, then it owns you.
Buckle your seatbelt.
Should I stay or should I go now? Should I stay or should I go now?
What the fuck is going on?
Hasta aquí llegaste, cabrón.
Either we go deeper or we get out.
I don't want out.
Should I stay or should I go now?
I need to know that you're a guy that can take care of his shit.
Asshole!
I can handle it.
I don't suppose you're Jewish, are you?
Eat, skinny boy.
You know you're gonna upset her. I like you, Hank.
Should I stay or should I go?
So yeah, as you can see, it's pretty cool. Honestly, everyone on Reddit said it was like if Darren Aronofsky did a Guy Ritchie movie, and I really couldn't agree more. It did read a lot like that, and it was kind of his first dive into like a dark comedy because the stuff is usually pretty serious if you know his work. And yeah, I'll talk more about it, but quickly kind of gonna subverge and just let you know a little bit about my background. Here I am, I'm Chiara. That picture I took actually in a little shoot I did in the set of Caught Stealing. It's this dive bar down in Lower East Side. It's pretty cool. I definitely recommend going to check it out. It's called Double Down Saloon. Bartenders have made so many cameos. Super cool spot. Anyway, but I graduated Syracuse 2022. I majored in TRF and I minored in English. I ended up graduating a semester early, and in my last little semester, I went to LA, so I did SULA, and I ended up doing an internship with a place called Filmworks FX over there. And once I graduated in December, they were like, "Hey, do you want an actual job?" And I said, "Yeah, but not in LA because everyone I know is on the East Coast." And they were like, "Lucky for you, we have some room on our East Coast office." So super sweet. And they pretty much are known for doing the VFX for CBS shows like Blue Bloods, The Calling. We did a few like little indie features like Giselle's Visit, some pretty cool stuff. And yeah, working for this job, I was on the vendor side, meaning that rather than actually being in the production, I was more so like our studio was contracted and we were actually creating the visual effects. Honestly, I learned so much on the job. Thankfully, thanks to Shayna's VFX class, I did have some background in After Effects and Fusion, which ultimately helped me get to know a little bit of Nuke. And for the most part, we weirdly did use After Effects for that. So yeah, I love that job. It was a great like first start. I got to meet so many cool people. And you know, I was there for about a year until the strike happened. Dun dun dun. Which of course, as you all know, was a bit of a curveball. Not really, but kind of. And when that happened, I was like, okay, I have to make myself like absolutely irreplaceable. Like they need to keep me on. Please give me a job. So my boss and I before that were kind of playing around with some Unreal Engine virtual production stuff, and I had an interest in animation. So when the strike happened, we talked to the our boss in LA, and we were like, hey, if you keep us on, we're gonna try to make this into a virtual production studio. And we spent that like the latter of those next couple months just learning about it and teaching ourselves and a lot of trial and error. But yeah, we eventually kind of got a nice pipeline down. And then I ended up doing this indie film that Syracuse was a big piece of called Mirage afterwards that was like, you know, an indie form of virtual production, which seems really cool, but there's a lot of hard work. And I did, you know, a presentation about it for SUP a while ago, and you all really helped me. It's just so much, so many little pieces, and yeah, it all came together somehow in some way, and that's a little bit of my past. Now let's get into like what actually matters though. Working on the client side for Caught Stealing, I was VFX coordinator, and Blue Bloods had its run. We had like 17 seasons, I think, whatever. And then Shayna called me up at the right time and said, "Hey, my friend Dan is looking for a VFX coordinator for this new movie. Would you like to, you know, apply?" And it was like divine timing. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be jobless in a little bit. I would love to apply. And Shayna's like, okay, well, it's not compositing though, it's coordinating. And I took Shayna's PPP class, so I had a vague idea of that, but I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm qualified for this, but I gave it a shot anyways. I met Dan, and he was so lovely. We got along great, and then he offered me the job. And when I was interviewing, I had no idea what film it would be. They don't tell you that. So he gave me the script. I was like, okay, cool. It's about baseball. There's some baseball elements. I had to learn a little bit about that. And then later on, while we were working, I found out that it was directed by Darren Aronofsky, who is one of my favorite directors. So it was definitely like a, oh my gosh moment. So it was super cool. But yeah, I'll pretty much tell you about some of the roles that came with this job. You know, I was the liaison pretty much between the client and the vendor. And it just meant checking emails, communicating with the vendor 24/7, managing an in-house team of compositors, as well as our 3D lead and supervisor. And yeah, I'll get more into my day-to-day on the next slide, but we had VFX, feedback nonstop to the client and a lot of 4K reviews. And then I also picked up some compositing on the side. We had some cool shots that I felt confident in doing, and I approached Dan, and I love compositing, and it's what I was, doing before. And I asked him, and he let me take a whirl at it, which was pretty nice. And yeah, I'm not going to go too in depth with the softwares, but pretty much what I would use every day was ShotGrid, so much Excel, too much Excel for my taste, but you got to know it. It's not my favorite, but it's fine. And Photoshop, After Effects, and we ended up learning some DaVinci Resolve to try to help with that color pipeline through After Effects. So that was difficult at first, but once you get it, it's pretty easy. And yeah, and I just want to take a moment to talk about working with Dan because for any of you know him, he is such an amazing, cool person. He's best known for his work with Darren on Black Swan. He works on a majority of Darren's movies for being a VFX supervisor. And he also did The Sopranos, and he's the nicest guy. And working with him, we got along very well. We had to work as a team. We had our own little office in the back of Company 3 in this little corner. It had no windows, so now we had to make our own sunshine in some ways. It definitely got a little gloomy just in the dead of winter, but he's such an upbeat person. It was great. Along with that, though, I definitely had to pose kind of as the bad cop when talking with clients because they all are of his relationships that he's fostered throughout the years. So he doesn't want to, tell them, hey, where is this submission? We're waiting for this shot. It's been a week and you still haven't given it to us. So he'd be like, Chiara, can you nudge him? And I would be the person. I'm like, where is this submission, guys? What are we doing? We need this yesterday. And I'm a pretty nice person, so that honestly was hard for me to adapt to. But once you got it, it was fine. And yeah, I think it was best to just listen to him. He's a person too, know how to aid him, know what notes he likes to take, what information he needs the most. And Dan was a great teacher. Going into it, coming from compositing, I didn't know so much. And I think I was just really honest with him and said, I have no idea what you're asking me to do. And he would quickly explain it and then on to Google and Reddit to figure out the rest. So, kind of a learn as you go. But yeah, quickly day to day. Also, I just want to know how cool these character posters are. Someone designed them. I forget the name. I want to give that person credit, but they're super cool, and I had to include them because they just are very 90s. I don't know. I dig them. But yeah, my day to day. So we worked at Company 3 in New York. I would come in around 7 or 8 a.m. This is not mandatory. I will let you know, but I when we had a big day ahead of us, like to be there before my supervisor because I like getting everything super organized, super to the point. So when he came in, I was like, this is what we're doing. This is what came in. We have to review this shot. And this vendor got back to me and told me that they needed, an asset or whatever. So that was just my own preference. And then I would go on, check and respond to emails. A lot of the times it would just be talking to vendor coordinators who needed certain things, certain assets, but a lot of the time different specs, had questions, wanted to set up, little talks so we could walk them through some things. And ShotGrid, our beautiful ShotGrid, you would update that as to what shots came in that day, what was pending, what had to be reviewed, look over approvals. I would then talk to our post production supervisor, the lovely Leslie Converse, and kind of give her counts and say all right, we have 458 shots approved. We might be approving 300 today, depending on how our 4K review goes. Give her a little brief, and yeah. And then I would also just kind of look over everything that came through. We used the platform Aspera for online transfers, so we could see different versions. And yeah, then in the afternoon, we would have our dailies little session with our team. It would be our VFX editor, David Smith, Dan, and me sitting there, and we would pretty much see everything that came in and give our notes out to the vendors ASAP after we saw them. So, if we see one of the biggest things that we saw a lot of in this film was gore. And Darren was very particular about gore and where he liked things to be, how gory he wanted them, how the blood spurted out, all of these super little things that you don't think about, but you don't want to show the director or the editor things before they are ready to be shown. So a lot of these dailies reviews, we would be looking over things, and if we knew that they wanted the blood to go a little bit to the left and get into the, the ground, we would quickly write to them and say, you got to give us another submission and it's got to get more in the ground. Yeah, like stuff like that. Yeah, so the feedback to vendors, I would then, stuff that we approved, we would add them to a 4K review playlist so that we could go into our 4K screening rooms at Company 3 with the director and the editor and look over all the shots. Just so you all know, like this isn't super common for the editor and director to be super involved, but it is Darren's personal style. He would come in almost every day, and it was really cool. It was kind of like, meeting and working with an idol. It was like, man, I wrote a paper about you back in Syracuse. Obviously didn't tell him that, but it was super cool, and he's a really nice guy. But definitely likes things the way he likes them. I'll get to that later. And yeah, so we would do that. We would talk with our in-house team a lot. They would be asking questions. I was always kind of the liaison, so they would reach out to me as anyone here who has composited, your coordinator is your best friend. You want a spec, you want them to ask somebody something. So that was something that took a while for me to get used to, because I was always used to just asking my coordinator for the magic answers. And now I have like 5 people asking me, and I don't know the answers, but I got to pretend like I do. And so I would have to quickly, do my research and adapt to that and being as speedy as possible to best assist them. But yeah. And then the end, we would usually do our 4K reviews like twice a week around 4 p.m. I would take notes during them, listen keenly to what everyone said. It would move fast. You show a quick shot that's a simple removal or split screen. And like the director doesn't even know what the heck is happening. So they're like, fine, fine, good, good. And at that point, we've seen it so many times, the VFX team, that we know that it's super solid. But you're changing statuses in real time. So like when they're like, what am I looking at? That's fine, that's fine. You're like sitting there and it's fast paced, but you get the hang of it eventually. And yeah, and then I would update shot grid. I would kind of like go through after everything was all nice and organized and see what I had to do for tomorrow. And then depending on the day, I would leave around like 7 or 8. So pretty intensive. Social life did suffer a little bit, but honestly, when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like it does. You kind of like adapt and you enjoy your time there. And so yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But yeah, I'm gonna keep on going. So working with Darren, so he's heavily involved in all of post-production. He's been known for this for all of his films. And so in Company 3, we had our little wing, and it was visual effects, we had sound, and then we had editorial. Again, this isn't super common, but all of post was pretty much together. And it was really cool. We got to work heavily with the editor, Andy Weisblum, who's very well known for being the editor for all of Wes Anderson's films, as well as Darren's. And he is a wonderful, wonderful man. Like I can't speak praises enough about the people I worked with. Like it was such a wonderful opportunity to learn from such people. And they're so acclaimed, but yet they act so kind. Like Andy brought me, what is it, like the black and white cookies because they're in the movie, and I said I never had them. It's kind of just like a moment when you're with them and you're like, wow, you guys are people too. I'm talking with you. It's awesome. But anyway, something about their work though with Aronofsky, he's always pushing boundaries. Go watch Requiem for a Dream and you'll see what I mean. Like, and that was like way back. It gets heavy, and he likes kind of being, pushing the audience to feel things that they've never felt before. And when you're working with VFX, you have to bring these visions like to life. You have to listen to him. So Andy and Darren were very heavily involved in visual effects. And of course, there is definitely some pushback there because you're like, hey, let visual effects also do their job while also listening to their, creativity. So it was really educational because you have to find like that creative problem solving sweet spot, right? You have to try to make everybody happy, appease everybody. And I felt like a liaison a lot of the times of making sure that everyone was, executing the shots in a way that everybody saw fit, if that makes sense. But yeah, so how I prepare for the role, honestly, everyone who's in PPP right now, save your freaking notes. Like, I will tell you that because I wish I did. Sorry, Shayna, I did not save my notes. but I remembered them. So I definitely like remembered some of the keywords and looked them up, just did my homework, looked into everything as best as I could. I recalled knowledge that I gained from being a compositor, and I reached out to the coordinator from Filmworks and had a call with her and said, hey, how did you become a coordinator? What do I do? And then ShotGrid also has a lot of great Autodesk, technically. I don't know what the name for ShotGrid is now. I know they change names all the time. So I don't know. But Autodesk ShotGrid has a bunch of great educational courses that really helped me learn the software and be equipped and ready to go when I first got there. And I think what I learned from the job was quick communication. You have to respond to those emails ASAP. I am the kind of person, a text can sit in my inbox, unfortunately, for like 7 days. And this was before the job. Before the job, I was like just super, I'm an artist, I'm doing my thing when I get to you. So now you text me, instant reply. It like rewires your brain in a way. You're like, all right, I got to be on it. Someone needs something, you do it. And I'm grateful for that. My friends like me more because now I don't leave them hanging for weeks. So that was cool. I think expressing creative ideas to others effectively is huge. Like you have to definitely hear what everyone's saying, make it happen, and respect what they're saying also. It's so easy to just take creative freedom from the visual effects department, but at the end of the day, it's like a director's baby. You want to make everything look really good, and how they like it, how the editor likes it, and how your supervisor likes it. And patience and creative problem solving also, being like that person, making everyone communicate effectively and just waiting and trusting that the vendors are going to deliver what they have to deliver. Like it's a lot of trust that they have their jobs for a reason. You sometimes want to baby vendors and be like, no, I want it this way, I want it this way. But you also have to be like, hey, they're an established studio, they know what they are doing and they are going to deliver what they need to be. So it's the kind of thing where it's trust on both sides and you learn that. And I think that you would like this job if you are direct and communicative, pretty direct person. I tell you how it is, and that's how everyone in the industry is. You got to be detail oriented. So, look out for every little small thing. Motivated and ambitious. You're meeting some of these established people every day. You want to make an impression on them. You want to do the best you can, and you just gotta do it. And a perfectionist. Any of my Capricorns out there, fellow Capricorns, And yeah, I'm gonna just play you this little video. This is Darren talking about the anatomy of a chase. So this is a really cool scene. While you're watching this, if you want to just kind of like look and see what you think is visual effects, because I'll briefly discuss it after. So I'll let him take it away.
That's actually Liev on your heel.
Yeah, he's chasing me.
That was a great stunt. I think very, very hard to do, to take a hit on the
No. I mean, in that,
Yeah.
Liev really, he had that idea of doing the hit to the throat.
Yeah, he created that scene. It's nice when you have a guy who like really knows his stunt work to suddenly contribute something to where the stuntmen are like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, you realize how many hours he's put into playing a badass.
Exactly. And he was brutal. And then this was one of my favorite shots in the film, which was the kind of dash across East Broadway. You actually see the World Trade Center. Right there you get the Twin Towers are back in. And that's like an exciting thing for me as a filmmaker and as a lifelong New Yorker, was like realizing how much we would see those Twin Towers living in New York. They were always like landmarked. Everywhere you were, you could always see them and know exactly where you are.
And then for me, there's cars going either way.
Yes.
And there's Vincent D'Onofrio in the van chasing. And then the other car that has the camera on it is coming from the side.
So I'm sitting
and trying to get the right speed.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
This was pretty exciting because this is a working.
The supermarket was still open while we were here. Then we get to my second favorite shot.
Yeah, that's great.
D'Onofrio running up the aisle, just like somehow he's able to like push his body forward a little bit and use our wide-angle lens to distort it. And this is a real stunt. You completely did this.
Yeah.
And that was real seaweed.
That was really seaweed.
And then you did slide under that.
So yeah, super cool. Anyone want to share what they thought was visual effects there? It's okay if not. I can't see if you're raising your hand, so just unmute, but you don't have to. Yeah, Eric.
Well, I mentioned the Twin Towers, so that definitely has to be VFX.
You got it. You got it. Honestly, there was a lot of period work done in this. That was a majority of the visual effects in this film. The Twin Towers, every time you saw a walk, don't walk sign, back in the 90s in New York, they didn't have the little people walking. They instead had walk and then don't walk. And so now imagine filming nowadays in New York, how many crosswalk signs there are and how many need to be replaced. And also, like with the Twin Towers, we had to find out every angle. You know, there's so many drone shots, so many scenes where you don't think the Twin Towers are there. They were, even if it's just like a little bit. So like so much of it goes unseen, like the audience, it goes over their head except for the big shots of it, but it makes some cameos for sure. Anyone
Yeah,
else? Oh
even
yeah, go.
cars also, I was gonna say. Not that they were necessarily replaced because it was 90s, but there might be a CG car too for period accuracy.
You got it. In that one where he's like running and the Previa is following him and there's the two cars crossing, those cars are all CGI because the ones that were actually crossing were like Jeep Wranglers and stuff. You know what I mean? Like super modern cars that like, I don't know, maybe there were Wranglers in the 90s. I'm born 2000, but so yeah, that was one. And then in that scene, the biggest one was the Previa. You know, so many times the Previa, which is the big van, it wasn't moving like at the pace it should have. So like it would stall in places. Like there were just so many things, like little, I don't want to say nitpicky because they're not exactly like super tiny things because they make a difference in the overall flow of the edit. But you know, things that you would never realize while you're filming it, like, oh wait, the Previa should have stopped and then it should have made more of a turn and then it should have gone. Like it's all stuff that, you know, in editorial the editor sees, he's like, can you guys do this? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. You know, let's get it done. So a lot of the van in that was totally CGI, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah. Thanks, Eric. I'm gonna share some BTS kind of going off of that. Just want to note that these behind the scenes shots are from Reddit. I do have my own behind the scenes shots, but I don't know if that's allowed. So I'm showing you the Reddit ones. Except for the one of me with the cat. That is real. That was Austin Butler's like birthday celebration thing, and they made a cake of the cat. That was kind of cool. But yeah, so I'm gonna just share some cool things. Oh no. Okay, there we go. We have starting off strong cars. So as you can see with the Previa and stuff, we did have some CG cars. Um, one really cool thing, I don't want to give away the plot of the film for anyone who hasn't seen it, but we have two takes where we have these old 90s cars going dead into the camera and they crash, right? Not going to tell you why or anything, but it's head on into a pole and they both crash and everything comes apart. And those were real cars. So they could only crash those cars once. And that is crazy, you know, because what could go wrong? Well, some stuff went wrong and VFX came to save the day. So, you know, on set and everything, all of the different cars were scans, the IROC Z, the Previa, they were all scanned by our data wrangler. And we had those in post. And one of the biggest problems was during all of the debris that came from the crashing of the cars dead on, one of the headlights hit the camera and broke the camera. But so, you know, that's not good. So one of the little fun things that Dan and I had to do, we like scoured over eBay. We were trying to find this exact headlight from this exact year that matched perfectly. Somebody had it, we took it, we brought it, we scanned it, and it worked. It worked really well. And we just kind of did like a little replacement and we did a wipe with it. It worked out. So that was cool. LED screens kind of going off of this. So great in concept. So great in concept. You can see up there with Austin driving and the LED screen behind him. All driving shots were shot on LED screens except for one scene. But unfortunately, all shots ended up having to be composited via regular traditional green screen. And when you don't have a green screen and you have an LED screen, guess what that is? It's a whole lot of roto, like a lot of roto. And it was rough. I won't lie to you. We executed it so well. Our vendors did an amazing job. But you know, when you're not like, when you're on set and it looks fine, It's like, okay, great. But then when you start taking that footage from the LED screens into post, you're like, wait, what's all of that artifacting up here? Whoa, is that like, that's like 5 modern cars, like from the drone footage that they took. And oh, the lighting looks kind of fake here, you know? So it's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's a wonderful concept. I have no doubt with further development, it will be feasible, and it has been feasible for other films. But, you know, when you're experimenting with these new technologies, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this was one of the cases where it didn't. So we, you know, as a VFX team, had to troubleshoot solutions and find ways to quickly and effectively replace those LED backgrounds with footage that works. And it took a lot of brain power. Like this was a, you know, I don't want to say a hurdle, but you know, it took a lot of us, a lot of work with the vendors, and it worked out great. So proud of it. You know, at the end of the day, it's one of those invisible things that when you're watching it in the theaters, you're like, yeah, it looks great. Like we did that. But okay, and then period design, as I was kind of talking about, World Trade Center, we had a New York based on visual effects vendor called Cadence. They did the map painting for it. We put them, the World Trade Center was in so many shots. When I first got there, one of the first things I did was like geography of New York in the 90s. Anyone who lived in New York in the 90s, hit me up. Like I remember, I now know, it was almost like I was there. But Google Earth, you know, going on and trying to figure out where the World Trade Center was. Oh, if I'm on like 14th Street and I'm looking at the Empire State Building, where is the World Trade Center there? A lot of that, but it was cool. And then the walk don't walk, that was a lot. And one of my favorite parts was graffiti. You know, Lower East Side in the 90s was rough down there at some points. And so there's so much graffiti. There still is to this day, but we definitely, a lot of the faces of you know, different buildings, we would just rough up, make them look older, make them look grungier, and add to that kind of aesthetic of that the film was trying to capture, of this punk Lower East Side. And goes with my personal aesthetic, so I love the graffiti part. That was super fun. I'm gonna let Darren talk a little bit about recreating
It's
this.
funny, me
I'm
and
actually
Zoe.
not gonna let him talk. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna let him talk. I'm gonna just scrub through it because it's 9 minutes. I'm so sorry, Darren. This is pretty much, he's just talking about like recreating it. So as you can see, like you have these little pieces even inside the apartment buildings. You know, this was a lot of set design doing all of this, but visual effects still added some. Like this is a super cool shot. All of this was super dirtied up. We put like barbed wire on the actual, oh my gosh, but I can't think of the name for them. Anyway, the little like parts where you go out of your apartment, it's totally blanking. The fencing, wow, whatever. You would put barbed wire. We put like graffiti all over the bricks. We would dirty up the bricks. That was really cool. Let me see what else. A lot of this also with Austin and his stunts, you know, he would wear wire, so we would remove those. And yeah, I'm just gonna kind of pause this and move on. You can watch it totally though if you want. It's a super cool video. And now I just want to bring up, because it's been a lot in the media, about Darren's Primordial SUP, which is his AI visual effects company. Just want to let you know this was not used on this film. It was kind of in the making. He's collaborating with Google DeepMind, and they're kind of making the software that, you know, is AI visual effects. You can look into it on your own time. I'm not going to talk about it much here, but what it could mean for the future of visual effects is, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, not great. Yeah, but just thought I would clarify. No AI was used in caught stealing, so that's something. Yeah, some takeaways that I had from this was honestly just being comfortable with the uncomfortable. I went in not knowing what it was like to be a coordinator, and faked it till I made it, kind of, you know. I mean, I did ask when I didn't know, because there's no use. You're wasting everybody's time if you're going to pretend like you know something and you don't. Sometimes when you have a good crew, it's easy to just be like, I don't know what this is. Tell it to me. I'll look it up. I got you. But yeah, and you know, when you go in and walk into something, you just got to have that confidence that you're going to get it, that if you're authentically yourself, if you love what you're doing, and if you express and show that love and that willingness to learn, you will make it. And, you know, it comes down to that. I think nurture and value your connections is a huge takeaway. Like, Huge shout out Shayna. Thank you, Shayna, because I wouldn't even be here talking or have the job without Shayna just nudging me in that direction and saying, hey, Dan's looking for someone. Like, I'm so thankful. And, this industry relies so heavily on your impact and your interactions with people. So, even being on this job, met so many amazing people, got so many different connections. And it's not like you want to go in looking for that, like, what can you do for me? Never have that mindset. You are talking with people, you're meeting cool people from different backgrounds. And it's about making this amazing network that is a support system for you and like people you just vibe with. Like everyone, in visual effects and animation is very, very welcoming and kind and I don't know, educational isn't exactly the right word, but everyone teaches each other things. And I think it's important, not to go in with this mindset of I'm gonna make it, it's all me, because it's not. Like, cut it. You can't do anything without a team. It's so heavily based on your connections with others. And I think that's something important, especially in this day and age we live in when everyone is trying to, seek fame and whatnot. So just I think people and valuing people is a huge takeaway. Yeah, be authentically yourself. I went in there and I made friends with so many people just by being me, and each and every one of you is you and your own authentic self, and people love you for it. So, no use in being somebody you're not. Having confidence, like I said, and also just having an open mind going in, and you don't know something, learn it. Take every opportunity. Someone asks you to do something, do it. And go the extra mile always is the biggest one. Like, with the compositing, I did that on the weekend. So I did that on Saturday and Sunday. That was not in my job description. I did not have to do that, but I love compositing and I missed it in a way doing coordinating. And I expressed that to Dan and I said, hey, you don't have to pay me extra. You don't got to do nothing. Like, I'll clock my hours. I don't care. I just want to have a part in the visual effects here. I want to learn and I want to see my shots on the big screen, as they say. So I'm like, if you're okay with giving me that opportunity, I want it. And he was like, yeah, of course. You could do this split screen, or you can comp in this cat and on like, little things like that. And so I think, doing that, it benefited me in ways more than fiscally. Like I was proud, and you have a bigger part in it. And it's just going the extra mile and showing them that you care and you're not just there for a paycheck. Yeah. So we're gonna get into some cooler stuff later, but I guess like personally what's next for me, you could check out my website. I don't have Caught Stealing up there yet. It is on my IMBD, but I still want to put my reel and I can't really upload all of the work I did yet. But yeah, I'll be moving to Berlin in January for grad school. I'm going into a major for animation direction. On the side, on a lot of my social platforms, I do like these little animations called Alien Girl, and it's kind of my little passion. You can also see here I did little cell animation of our cat from Caught Stealing Bud, of him running, and I'm working on a little something there. And yeah, it's the kind of thing where I loved this experience. I loved coordinating and I love compositing, but I also really love animation. And it's like life is just too short to live linear. That's my favorite saying. You can dip your feet in a bunch of different things. And sometimes people do like just sticking to one route. That's so okay. Not hating on it. But for me, I'm like, there's so much I want to do. And yeah, I really want to move to Berlin and kind of give it a shot. I'm taking a language intensive for German. So ich spreche Deutsch und arbeite eine Animatorin. Ja. I'm so sorry if anyone speaks German. That was really bad. On week two. So some slack. But yeah, so that's that. And yeah, questions, anyone? You can also, if you want, follow me on IG. I have some cool behind the scene things to show you later. But if you follow me on IG, I have my link tree, so you can see like my TikTok, my YouTube, Pinterest, and LinkedIn, and all that jazz. But I just didn't want to put it all here. Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. And any questions? Sorry, Juniper. Thanks for raising your hand.
Yeah, that's all right. I didn't know if we needed to.
No, you're good. I couldn't see.
But
I was just like, go on, you're good.
no, no, you're good. It, how I'm curious, like since like you said that, it was pretty, um, like different for this movie to have the director and the editor be like super super involved with like the VFX approvals and whatnot. How often would you be like in contact with the actual editorial team, like the product, like production coordinator and whatnot? Because it sounds like being the coordinator for VFX, like there's just so much overlap in terms of just making sure that the entire post team has everything that they need in order to be successful.
Totally. We talked to editorial like every day. Every day, they were right down the hall from us, so it was very easy. But our post supervisor came in every day. Towards the beginning, a little less so. Everyone's just kind of finding their groove, everything's getting. But when you're in crunch time and you have those like deadlines to hit, and editorial's waiting on you, they're waiting on your shot so that they can finish up like their reels, close out their you know what I mean. So it's kind of like every day you're talking with them, and we all got very close. So again, this is my experience on caught stealing. I don't know if it's like this for everything else, but I enjoyed it. I liked it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else?
Yeah, really quick. You mentioned that all of the car interior shots were done initially on an LED wall. Those shots with Vincent and Liev in the Previa, were those particularly brutal? I just think
Was
about
it
the
was it
beards.
obvious? Was it obvious?
Well, I mean, I noticed a couple places, but you did a damn good job with that, considering I didn't even know that was the case. But so those were over LED wall and then rotoed. Wow.
Thanks, Brad. No,
Yeah.
it got to the point where it was like down to the wire, and we're like, all right, to the naked eye, these look good. To, visual effects artists, might be a little some things,
Only a
especially
couple spots.
especially I think I know where you're talking. It was on like the right wall where it was so skewed, one of the positions, and with the LEDs, as you know, they have like the drone footage that you're using. So when the drone is like only at a specific angle, yeah, that was rough, but good eye.
So, and did any of the LED stuff, straight background stuff, make it into the film, or was it all recomped?
There were a few. There were a few. When he was younger driving, a few of those, but it was like it wasn't the entire scene. It was like this one, this one, this one is good, and then eventually, it's yeah. There were a select few, but a majority of them did have to be.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
Thanks.
like there's a lot of driving in there. There's a lot of talks in the cars.
Okay. Yeah.
If no other questions, I can stop the recording and then we can watch other stuff.
Sounds good to me.